But yeah, so
Again.
any questions we have?
I do, but you won't answer it, so it doesn't matter.
What's the question?
I have these experience points, right? But I don't know what to do with them.
Okay, that's not a question, that's a statement, but go on.
So I don't know what to do with them, and I don't know how to spend them. So I've got to figure out when to spend them and how to spend them.
So my first question with first round of experience always is, what was essential to your concept that you weren't able to buy at character creation?
That's the thing. I got just enough to actually begin the character, but I have to take them in a hard direction of one way or the other, and I have no idea which direction to take them in.
So are there any specialties that you wanted to pick up that you didn't, or would help you decide what kind of direction you want to go?
Nope.
You are very unhelpful.
You wouldn't be the first person who told me in my life that I'm not very helpful.
What do you feel like your character learned since you earned the experience points?
Nope.
How to take a punch.
Yes.
How not to get trampled. But I don't know if that's any help, though.
That is no
It
help
could be.
Because he wasn't.
I mean, that's athletics.
Fortitude. Can't get fortitude and have the 3 in athletics.
So I did the most
Awareness?
amazing thing. My incense cones, instead of keeping them all separate, I mixed them in a goblet, and it's a random selection going forward, at least until this batch runs out, of what scents will actually be in the background. I'm very curious. This is the first inaugural flight of a randomized luck of the draw burning in the offing. But more specifically, what was the question?
Sure. Which should I put the dots in?
Oh, that's quite easy. What did you learn in character? Because you have the character where you wanted him to start approximately, and you're unwilling to make a decision as to what the next step will be. Simplify it down to what did they experience or what did they learn? And outside of facetiousness, a very good thing in like just sheer raw unbiased mechanics, he did get accosted by a older kindred, so it would not be unfair to have spent the last 2 weeks digging through the back racks of some secondhand resale shop, digging for treasures and finding all of the old Billy Blank's Tybo tapes to add a dot to Brawl, or as stated, athletics, but 4 is a little high to begin with, but that would definitely could add to him talking shit and beating feet before he gets hit, knowing the exact moment to, now this is the point where I begin dodging. Or also, very much so, being as an entire episode, he was stuck in a moment because he was unsure what to do when dealing with the riff-raff of the street. So there's also streetwise. There's also survival, being as he, Charlie, and Amalia did get an opportunity to explore a portion of the facility and the center of their domain. So just what they've experienced and making that just simply a mechanical toss of the dice, those would be the top 3 off the top of my head. If we look more deeply, there's definitely several other things, such as larceny, in terms of keeping track of security and how to subvert it. There's driving, because getting stuck in a mob is not the best situations for anybody to be in. It might trigger, PTSD and needing to control what he can, i.e. learning to drive better offensively and defensively. So the real question is, what do you see him as having needed?
I'll give some thought. I think I'll do it later. Procrastination.
Yes. Any other question?
Not really a question. I did give you a couple of things that she was probably going to do over the last couple of weeks.
Yes. And I'm going to tie a minimum of at least one of those together with another player because it was. I like the way that it's a little bit simpatico and it still leaves room for everything else.
Okay.
I didn't get your suggestions in regards to the last 2 weeks for the character. So, good buddy. What, if you'd be so kind as to go ahead, quickly jot down in your character's channel what potentially maximum of 3 finite things was Max seeking to accomplish? Because we're picking up 2 weeks from the brawl for it all, 2 weeks from when everything so far became a little more obvious, when the power structures and civil war happening just to the left and just to the right of the camera came into more focus. And while you consider that over the next couple of seconds, some of the things that I'm not sure if you guys cataloged or took note of and jotted down for your characters elsewhere, like things that they would have clearly been made aware of or clearly known based on our volume 1 for the Brew. So for your edification for the characters, they are made aware that there is a power structure beneath the visible rulership and leadership of the prince. There is a several pointed attack happening right underneath his nose. There are members of the Anubi and members of the unofficial court, the elders and Ancilla of Milwaukee, scrabbling for power and trying not to unmask themselves in the doing. There are a slowly amassing vocal minority of newly created kindred who are seeking to declare themselves independent at any cost. They are literally challenging the very foundations of not just the tower, but Milwaukee. And then, on top of that, confusing things and muddying the water are those few independents of the Hecata who are warring with one another for chess pieces that make no sense to most others. There has been, over the last decade, a civil war amongst the Hecata, and which makes no sense on the surface because everyone knows that the Hecata are one singular family. They're just a rebranding of the Giovanni, but they are clearly fighting amongst themselves for places, for pieces, for domain in their inviolably separate and independent domains. There's also tumult within the circulatory system. Now, in world, the circulatory system is not a specific enterprise. It is a series of loosely affiliated conglomerates whose goal is a national distribution of blood. Sometimes vitae, if you got the money, if you got the scratch. But all of these things being juxtaposed and at loggerheads has caused an instability in the normal, staid, paranoid level of security for the kindred of Milwaukee. And you realize that one of the power pieces, one of the most easily accessible points of attack is the domain where you all have been granted proprietorship as both punishment and reward, as a way to save your necks and potentially garner more support to yourselves and any of your political aspirations. Domains aren't passed out like candy. They're not given away in Milwaukee. There's always a cost. And usually, if you have a domain, you have a chess piece, a weapon, and a shield that, if you are not careful, could be taken or used against you. And the second, and by far most powerful bit of knowledge they have a backdoor into the new lord and operator of a portion of the circulatory system for Milwaukee. The chicken farm, the plant, is a major hub of the system, of the network. And you all now have access to the persons who have subsumed ownership and leadership over it. as well as a backdoor pass and access to their product. Because it's not just the donors, it's not just the blood dogs and blood freaks. There is a potent bottled blood that is seemingly drinkable by most kindred. And you all are one of the few who are intimately aware of it. So yeah, that's where, overarchingly, where we'll be beginning. Just to give you guys a quick lay of the land.
I assume we're starting back at Hunger One and all that.
Yes, you guys have had the opportunity to hunt, barter, beg, connive, steal for your daily bread, or nightly bread as the case actually is, to have what you most need and enjoy. Alright, so we have stalled, we have danced for time, and we are comfortably well into the fashionably late of our hard start. So before diving completely into where we are here in the brew, I'd like to ask, what, if any, additional questions, suggestions, hypotheses, or corners you have that we'd like to round off?
I just wanted to be absolutely sure, though, because I know we were talking about it, but did she get her son back? That sort of thing, like...
Yes, he's back in your care. There is something wholly traumatized about him. There's a ghost at the corner of his eyes. There's a frailness and a fragility there that had not ever been there in your brave boy's eyes. Because even as he is in fact a full-fledged adult, he will always be your boy. The overreaching, over-scrabbling, I can do it with myself. I can make this. I can fix this. I can make this better. Boy, solving problems oftentimes created by his inability to ask for help, his want to do good, his want to impress you. And even as an adult, it still remains there just beneath the surface. But now there's an added flavor to him that is not entirely completely unpleasant, but definitely not something that you would ever admit to enjoying. There's a trepidation, there's a little fear. And while you are 100% positive that Pedro Rossi did in fact keep her word and make sure that he was physically unharmed, and that the memories he had of that horrific incident and the time therein have been pulled from him, have been stripped from him, there seems to be lasting residual emotional or mental issues remaining. Nothing that would impede or has impeded his ability to be effective as a face for the company. Nothing that seems to have changed him overly much. But as Millie lives by night, the chances to really observe him have been few and far between, fleeting even. Because as much as she likes to dote and keep an eye and keep aware, he still is a fully functioning adult who has all of the day.
Fair enough.
And so, without too much further adoing until we don't, taking the lovely silence of understanding well in hand, allow me to say thank you. To thank you for your time, your effort, your energy, and your cooperation in making this hobby of ours enjoyable. By helping make this hobby of ours not merely just a small sidestep from our reality, but something that we look forward to. It means a lot, this opportunity to play and explore the darker parts of this world while escaping the darker parts of our own. Thank you all very much. And without further beating of that very deceased equine member, I'd like to say that this is officially the Brew, Volume 2. The world was built on. In terms of flyover country, Milwaukee is, while not the capital city, but very close to it, is a strong, upstanding second as one of the larger, more visible examples of what the Midwest is. It is firmly on the border between the glitz and glam of the perceived state capital of Illinois, which is very close to Chicago. But it is also very much an example of its own, what the Midwest is. A short, squat, well-formed thing able to take the load of the world on its shoulders. Its houses are, even the taller skyscrapers, are a little more squat than they should be, as if they are braced for impact at any minute. The homes of the neighborhoods, even though the architecture varies, doesn't vary all that much. All of the homes are wide, low, close to the ground, allowing the wind to whip across their heads, allowing the wind space and room to maneuver between buildings, to go howling down the streets, and for the snow to pile up high enough that traversing it, you might as well attempt climbing Mount Everest. Milwaukee has its own feel, its own sense of permanence, from the original rustic German roots to the mingling of the workers flowing into the area from places due south, Chicago, Cary, from places due west, Minnesota, and from places due north, all the way up into Canada. It is a melting pot built around the idea of hard work won't kill you. It is a melting pot where things tended to blend and meld into a similarity of sameness. You gotta be tough. You gotta be strong. You gotta survive. So the meals are hearty and thick and rich, things that fill you up and stick to the bones. Beans and sausage and stews and soups made so thick that they require a knife and fork to get through. Milwaukee, despite all other images of what the Midwest could be, is a cold place, one where the strong persevere, and the weak are seldom mentioned longer than it takes to print out the prayer card or obituary. In this smiling, dangerous void, there is one thing that connects the hard-working average man, and that's the beer. That is the alcohol. That is the many nights spent in places where you shouldn't, enjoying the company of most dangerous men and women. And that's where we pick up with the coterie. It has been nearly 14 days since they found several secrets in regards to how the city operates, the backbone beneath all of the shadows around them. And it's been a trying period for some, and an even more trying period for others. In that 14 days, they have managed to rescue and take full ownership of Millie's son, former CFO of her company, of her brewery. They have managed to deeply explore a portion of their domain, the center secret of it all, the facility just beneath the surface. They have managed to imbibe, sample, and procure a larger portion of the brew, the hidden juice and oil that makes the city go. They have found and understood the full width and breadth of that portion of the Hakaда's interest in the city, this portion of the circulatory system. They have had the opportunity to speak with not loved ones, but close enough to count within kindred society. And like all things, they understand that it is time, in fact, to take care of business, lest business take care of them. Having drawn together once more at Millie's brewery to finalize plans and decide what course they are heading in, there's an accounting to be had. Prince Decker has, for the first time in over 30 years, officially invited the width and breadth of kindred community to an Elysium. They'll be meeting at the baseball field that houses his most favorite of things in the world, of the mortal world at least. They will be congregating in the various boxes, private, above the stadium, above the field. They will be engaging in all manner of business that only the kindred are made aware of. And it has been 30 years since an actual official invitation for such has gone out. It looks as if the other shoe is dropping. So settling into the back room, making themselves relatively at home, we begin anti-alphabetical with Millie addressing you all.
Well, I know what's going on this evening later. Elysium, as strange as that is. So we don't have a lot of time, but I would like to know if there are any matters of business that would like to be discussed before we go. I would also like to thank you all for helping me retrieve my son, even though I can't say that he was specifically harmed. And our lovely Pater kept her word to the spirit of things. He seems strange, different to me, which is why I went ahead with taking him off of his duties of CFO and giving him something of a vacation. He will be reassigned and placed elsewhere in the company so that he might not do any further harm to himself or my company. But that's neither here nor there. We are not here to talk specifically of what is going on with me. I wish to know what you all have been up to.
It's a cool winter evening. How does Max dress on the way to the meeting? How did he arrive here?
Long black trench, gray turtleneck, black imported slacks, nice black boots that come up slightly above the ankle quarter length, and a nice beaver skin fedora. Really, I've been trying to get some information, but other than that, I haven't really done much. Unless you want to talk about a painting that I just started. I think it might be one of my better works. Oh, and I'm also buying a warehouse to maybe serve as a gallery and maybe like a meeting place for like the kindred facing people in our area, because we still have to figure out what to do with that place under the city.
So you just have buy warehouse money then, it seems. Good to know, in case we need it for something else. But you're correct. The thing under the city, I'm sure that will come up this evening with the prince. Speaking of which, we need to know how we are going to approach that whole situation. What things have we accomplished? Do we wish for him to know, and what things do we not wish him to know about?
Well, if he don't know about it, I say we keep that under wraps, and because I don't want anyone to know about it. It's a little too close to our area for other people to find ways into it, and since it leads to every other haven, I don't know much about this, but I think it might be a security risk where they may want to know how we can sneak into their areas undetected using those underground tunnels. But I think we should probably clean it out first, i.e., get rid of all the not so nice things under there. But I have no ability to do that just yet.
It's funny. Charlie sitting listening to them talk, knowing the things that she and Mal got up to between Malia's dinner dates with the family. She never quite bothered to ask whether it was literally the family or what she offhandedly had called Aloysius and the pater. Either way, between family obligations, Charlie and Amalia have been spending an inordinate amount of time in the exploration and mapping of the Chapel Hill facility. Does she add anything or detract anything from the conversation?
Now she'll let him go.
And Amalia, would you be so kind as to give me a charisma plus either contact, status, or mallow roll?
We could do that.
The funny thing about falling into being the golden child all of a sudden, your service to the family, buying your father and mother a certain level of protection and freedom that they formerly hadn't been party to. There's a level of service that is demanded. There's a level of service not only expected but counted on. And while the punishments for failure are survivable, they're nowhere near enjoyable, which normally wouldn't be a factor or be an issue. With Amalia's position in the family, within the tower, acting as shield and aegis around her mother and father, she expected most things to go smoothly. She expected most things to not be a factor one way or the other. They were finally able to live in a semi-retirement and while away their days, having given their greatest of service. About a week ago, the calls began coming hot and fast. The East were reaching out. The East was coming. The East. Never mentioning a specific family member or what have you, which lends and leads itself to the seeming that someone important but low level enough to be risked with an unannounced visit to a faraway city, which was the catalyst behind all of the family gatherings, behind all of the added meals, behind all of the slight social skullduggery and espionage that Amalia entertained over this last few days between exploring the Chapel Hill facility underneath, well, the Capitol Hill facility. Underneath it all was the urge and need to protect her mother and father from whatever may be falling down on them. And what is in fact falling down on them was a question and answer, an interrogation. The Eastern families, specifically the Dunsons, are very, in fact, curious as to what might be happening. They've lost contact with Aloysius. They've lost contact with their local network. The Paters, the United Council of Paters, are scant on details. So as Amalia sits and listens to Max, Millie talk about the facility, she's a little distracted. But she does hear that they were interested or has mentioned the facility. Does she take part in the conversation?
What was that? Oh, your son. Yes, I'm glad he's mostly good. My family can be pretty rough.
It seems as if something is on your mind. Not all there this evening. Are there problems at home?
You know, just trying to figure out the map of the underground. There's oh no, I told you about that. Never mind. Ignore me.
Y'all gonna be all right there?
Absolutely. Couldn't be better.
And as if by divine intervention, as the temperature of the room raises a small bit, with all eyes focusing more directly on Mal, there's the soft knock out the door.
I guess I'll get that.
Getting to the door is, well, you guys haven't spent an inordinate amount of time here at the brewery or on the property. You guys have visited a few moments here and there over the last few weeks as things have been settling into place. Your partnership with Peter Rossi, your understanding of what the system there does, how things are progressing, there's a little touching base here and there. And so you guys become slightly recognizable faces to her loyal servant, her good time boy, her rotten pal. And he's standing there a little sheepishly, hands in pockets, not his usual bombastic self. Because even silent, there's a vibration of energy and strength and a fierceness that just radiates off of him. He's standing, his hat is off his head for one of the few times you've ever seen his full pate of salt and pepper, reddish tinged brown hair. His beard seems even a little wilted in a moment, and instead of staring fiercely through you all, daring to make eye contact, his coverall seems a little withdrawn, a little sunken, and he's staring at the floor. Pardon me, Mrs. We've got a delivery that I think that you better sign for. I wouldn't bother you otherwise, but forgive me.
Okay. First, my son is acting strange, and now you are acting strange. What in the absolute hell is going on this evening?
Yeah, no, I have no problem telling you everything that I know, and then more to boot, and everything I can prove and everything that I can't. But there are some things that you should be the one to deal with. This, unfortunately, is one of the things that you should be the one to deal with, my dear.
Fine.
And again, I'm truly sorry about interrupting, but I'm not equipped for this.
Does it require cleavage? Is that the problem? You don't have cleavage?
Nay, as much as I stuff in my belly, I seem to not have the metabolism to allow more than a few pounds to stick around my feet.
She will stand and walk towards the door, trying not to laugh.
As you and he step out and begin moving towards the rear of the property, towards the delivery docks. A self-owned private brewery is nothing new in Milwaukee. A brewery that's been around for the last few decades as an extreme example of what finely crafted brews were and are another matter entirely. It has a name in all the right circles for the brewmasters here and there. In fact, you all have an internship for brewmasters who haven't quite finished their tutelage, those who are wanting a few extra touches, or who are home brewers. You hold classes. There's a lot of good information that you all provide to the community, as it were, which hops to use, how to properly filter, what to do with your waste in an environmentally friendly way. And as you move through the halls towards the delivery bay, those things come back to you, because there is, despite the demonizing of alcohol, a lot of good you all do. Of course, you make a hell of a profit because you have so enmeshed yourselves in not only the drinking community, but the community at large. And as those thoughts bounce around the inside of Millie's head, as she steps out with her retainer, leaving Amalia, Charlie, and Max alone. There's an elephant in the room that has not been addressed. All three have been alone or relatively alone together in the facility. They've scratched the surface of it on multiple instances. They've experienced what lay down there in the dark, at least skimming the surface of it. Is there anything that you all share or interact with in that regards as Millie steps out of the back room that has become your meeting hall?
I suppose we didn't find nothing down there.
How far did you guys map the place out?
She'll look to Amalia for that one.
At a guess? What would I guess? At least half?
2 square miles of the potential 10 miles of the space.
All right. About 2 miles. Give or take. So, not super substantial, but we're getting there.
And nothing weird besides weirdness that we saw last time we were there?
I mean, the whole place is weird.
You're going to have to be more specific. Life is weird.
Well, when we were last down there, there was zombies or whatever the hell that thing was. Anything other than that? Like anything along those lines? Because while we killed those 3, there had to be more down there. Any bodies, any mass graves, because they were down there for a long time. Anything that could, even more importantly, and this is the important part, bite us in the ass later.
You mean those weren't zombies?
I don't know what they were.
These are totally different. Oh no, I've seen zombies. These are different.
Okay, well, what about those pools? Anything that we should know about? I mean,
the swimming
what
pool
was down there? Yeah.
in the gym.
Yes. In the gym, were there anything else using it?
I mean, the big bloated guy was sleeping in the water, so I mean, you do you, I guess.
Yeah, but was there anything else down there? Because we don't need it coming up, and we don't need to be down there. Well, I don't want to be down there and it decides to not sleep there and come eat me.
I mean, well, we took care of Davy Jones.
Yeah, but anything else down there, maybe?
I don't know.
Or any signs that Okay, I'll trust you.
I mean, 2 out of 10 miles. There's still a fair bit of ground to cover. Could be anything. Could be werewolves. Could be fairies. Pretty sure there's some ghosts.
Kind of shitty domain. There ain't no food in it.
Alright, so are we gonna, the 3 of us gonna go back down there and scope out some more?
Well, yes. Literally my job.
Alright. Well, it's your job. It's me taking unnecessary risks with my life. So,
Again.
need to get a balance there.
Again, you do you, boo. You do you.
See, this is why just me and her went in the first place.
Yeah. I agree, but we kind of need to have that area scoped out because if it's what I think it is, and it is, that's going to have to be our well-kept secret because if we can get to all points of the city using that area, most of the kindred are going to want to know about it. And that worries me a lot.
And the moment you hit that particular nail on the head, the scribbled, scrawled, barely legible journal in your side bag begins burning a hole in your pocket. Not literally this time, not growing hotter, not heating up, but there are several pages in that journal that you obtained through nefarious means from a friend of a friend who is determined to remain nameless, mentioning the footsteps of Zelios. What happens when a member of the sewer rats falls in love with a toreador, like days of old, where their mind is shifted and twisted and able to touch the untouchable, able to pierce the darkest of nights and build and bend reality to all of that myriad possibilities. You didn't put much credence. Go on.
No, I was just going to say I was going to pull out the notebook and kind of show them. Maybe they can make more sense of it than I could.
As soon as you put it on the table, Amalia's like, ooh.
There's some things that always tickle the back of the mind. You can just look at a book and know that while you can't judge it by the cover, you know that whatever's inside will be most interesting. This is especially so when finding someone's diary or someone's journal or something they purposely hid in the back of a drawer at the end of a chest of drawers covered by all manner of things. This is very much that, with the added benefit that the cover, the leather of it, has been worked and reworked. So there are multiple layers of leather craft and leather working, forming designs and sigils, almost as if someone who could not focus on one singular image but had the talent to turn leather into almost anything had this journal, had this book. The smell of it is old and dusty, even though he's brought it out of a fresh new side bag.
Amalia will do that thing that kids do where they like reach out to grab it and then snatch their hand back real quick a few times.
Charlie will roll her eyes and say, "So what time are we supposed to be there?"
Well, that depends. We should probably head there. If you happen to be a toreador, they kind of give you a little bit of time to be just a hair late.
And they're a hair, fashionably so. Just late enough for people to begin asking after where you might be. Just a little bit outside of what is easily viewable, making your entrance, getting the looks, the ahs, the oohs, and finding out who may actually have it in for you, who may not. A lot can be had in that initial moment of crossing the threshold into a space where there are others abounding. Those who look away, those who stare directly, those who purposefully ignore your tardiness. All clues to where they might stand. And speaking of being late, as you make your way through the building to the delivery area, you are not pleasantly surprised at all by the lack of staff in this area. There should be the moving of kegs, the rotation of casks. There should be the bottling of, but there's no one in this area save you and him as you move from the back meeting room through towards the delivery bay.
She kind of raises her eyebrow and looks at him. If you weren't so serious, whatever this seems to be, I would mention that you would think we aren't paying people to be doing the job. But I will give...
We are, madam. And I do, again, excuse me, I do apologize for the interruption. Like I said, this is something that perhaps only you should deal with. So I made sure that the remainder of the staff knew that we are needed elsewhere. I've got them over in the western wing, circulating and relabeling all over the cask there, as well as, well, that batch of mead that we made from the farmer's honey turned out a little bit sweeter than we thought, so I'm having them mellow it up with a bit of lilac.
Fine. I understand. I think whatever this is apparently is of some importance. So we have to handle it quickly because I don't wish to be late for Elysium, obviously.
And he opens the door for you. Opens the door into the delivery bay. Opens the door into the wide width that's stacked 5 and 6 casks high. You all age in several places throughout the building because, well, light, temperature, all affect the flavor of the brew. It all affects how the final and finished product reacts. And so there are several places throughout the building, several places throughout the brewery where batches are aged and kept, the delivery bay being one of them. Normally there's about 5 trucks, 1 van, either loading up or preparing to be loaded with deliveries for other places throughout the city. There's only the one truck, the truck that he drives usually. Resting on the hydraulic lift is a box roughly 7 feet by 4 feet tall and 3 feet wide. It is a shipping crate that isn't your normal. Stamped on the side are several numbers and letters, and it's not one that you all receive much of anything in. Your hops usually comes in hand-sewn bags to keep it fresh and vibrant and make sure you use it quickly enough. Your barley and malt similarly coming in typically satchels and occasionally huge oil drum-esque containers. That box is not your usual. And the fact that he's opening the door and standing there, not traversing in, begins raising the hairs on the back of your neck.
You do realize a bomb could kill me just as easily as it kills you.
Nay, madam, if you see there, I've already opened it for you. All you have to do is push the lid.
I don't like where this is going. He approaches the box and with 2 fingers slides the lid of the box to the side so she can get just the barest sense of what might be inside.
Even with the bright lights of the delivery bay, there's a malevolence, a darkness to the interior of that box. There's straw used normally to keep things from just jangling around inside, piled high and deep. It's clear that someone has already moved or looked through the straw inside and placed it back as it were. There are some points that you can't ever go back past. This is clearly one of those for Millie, staring, looking at all of that amassed straw. Looking back towards the door and seeing him standing there, hat still stuffed into his back pocket, his head and eyes looking towards the ground and looking everywhere and elsewhere but where you're standing at the shipping crate. The question is, does Millie actually move the straw, move the lid enough to see what may lie inside?
His behavior has her very worried, but she knows whatever it is, he is a strong man and he would not be rattled this badly unless it was something really, really bad. So she would never assume that anybody in her employ should have to handle anything she wouldn't herself handle. So she is going to take in a deep breath, one unneeded but old habits die hard, and slide the straw to the side, or at least part of it.
Timidly, peekingly, staying well hidden from what may lie there around the corner, reminding you of all of your youth of sneaking and eavesdropping on your parents as they did what adults did when children should be sleeping. They partied and drank and were ribald in their enjoyments. You got your opportunity to see sides of them that you never would have elsewise if you hadn't snuck and stolen the peek, stolen a listen, overheard conversations that were well above your maturity level, but added to your knowledge of things. This is one of those moments where moving timidly makes the matter worse, because you move the straw, refusing to move the lid, putting your hand down in and gently moving it just enough to try to peek what's beneath it. The shadows of the box obfuscating and occluding what lay inside. Your hand brushes against something cold, something chilled. There's no real moisture to it. It's just chilled, as if you're touching a mildly pliable bit of marble. Just cold, just the briefest touch of your fingers. And there's a chill that runs down your spine. You were 7 when your grandmother died. Your family was poor, so they didn't have a huge church ceremony. Your family was poor, so like days of old when the living room was called the parlor for just such an occasion, you all held your wake in your living room. You were just 7 when you began understanding the difference between life and death, and you understood it because while everyone else was talking and grieving and wiping tears and reminiscing about moments that happened long before you were even conceived, you eased closer to that poorly constructed pine box lined with pillows and silks sewn by hand by your mother and her sister, by your father and his brother. And you touched your grandma. You tried to wake her up. Just a little nudge. And while the sweater that she loved was covering her dress, everything was fine, or relatively so. You could just wake her, just nudge her. And then your hand slipped, and it brushed against her hands, resting over her stomach, one atop the other. And it was so cold. And reality dawned on you. There was no waking grandma at that point. And this is much the same. Just a few fingers. Just a soft, mild brush and something cold. And the pit of your stomach slowly turns.
She gives Colin one more look and then pushes the box top completely off, like ripping off the band-aid. Because now she has to know who.
Each of you have your talents. Each of you have your skills. Each of you have areas of the world that you interact with better than anyone else. You've come to count on each of you being able to hold your own in your own particular field. Max is the social world, the art world, those who have a refined palate. Aaron, the captain of industry, much like yourself, but he tackles the more numerical facets of the industry. He's able to cook the books and fix the numbers, whereas you are the operation side, keeping the businesses running to generate profit and product. Charlie, one of your enforcers with an ear to the streets. Amalia, your brave, intrepid scout, lighting the dark. And Kai, your junkyard dog. You wind him up, you set him loose, things fall. Your businesses, your social largesse, your money, your retainers, protected by the might and will of his arm. And there he lies. The difference between him and a truly dead entity is so negligible that it takes a second. You realize that something outfought your dog. Something laid your weapon against the world low. Something had the wherewithal to send their torpid corpse to you. And while you're kindred, and you can tell that somewhere beneath all of that death that lays all across his huge form, that underneath it, there's something still persisting. The wooden stake driven through the center of his body, bloodlessly so, holding him in place. His hands folded across his stomach, his eyes closed and weighed down by $2 silver. They even took the time to clean up whatever signs of battle were clearly upon his body. The wounds on his face were new or fresh, but there's no vitae clinging to any of that. There's no dirt, dust, or grime in his hair. He's wearing a suit which you've never seen him wear. And there, lightly peeking out of the corner of his jacket, there's a folded piece of paper, something small, something easily missed by others because it's white against white. But to your eyes, it might as well be a bright neon sign.
Looking back at home again, I suppose you don't know where this came from based on the writing on the container, but I'm sure the note will probably claim some responsibility for this. And she removes the note and opens it.
Eye for eye. One down for one gone. Signed L.M.D.
So that's how they want to play it. Good. Gives me something to do. She looks at him, leave him staked, repack the box, and put him somewhere safe in the basement where only we have access to him. I will have to notify the others. I want them to think he is still dead. We have lost our weapon.
Aye, madam. I'll get right on it. But are you sure that's the best course? Is he not? Is he actually dead? Is he actually gone?
No, there is still something there. He can be saved, but it would cost much to do so right now, and we don't have the time to properly wake him.
Aye, madam. That's true.
I will take this note and go back to the others and let them know, but we do have to leave. Thank you again, Colum. And she gives him a very bitter smile. Appreciative, honestly appreciative, but bitter as to what just happened. Turning on her heels and click-clacking her way back towards the way she came until she gets to the door in the back room and pauses outside for a moment, giving into that moment of tired and squaring shoulders, pulling herself up and opening the door.
The journal sitting on the table, the book, someone's writing, someone's thoughts. Amalia hovering over it as if it is in fact a prize, a gift, a present, some treasure from a bygone age. And Charlie looking between the book, Amalia, and Max, as you enter with the letter.
I know we have to go, but I would like you to understand what it is I just had to do. And why. I received a box. And Brewy, normally that doesn't mind or matter much, but it was what was in the box that was concerning. They took out Kai and sent him to me staked in a box with a letter. 1 for 1. Sure, it doesn't take much math to tell you who exactly is to blame for this. But to take him out took some power. I suppose it's war then.
Are y'all sure he didn't provoke it? He was pretty arrogant.
She hands Charlie the letter. See for yourself.
She will look at it. Oh, go ahead. You could.
It is exactly as she said. There's no misconstruing that someone purposefully moved against him due to your actions, your coterie's actions. One for eye for an eye, one for one down, one gone. LMD.
None of those initials mean anything to Charlie.
I bet they mean something to Mal.
Yep. Most assuredly, they were just at your family's house about 3 nights ago.
Oh, this is bad. Very, very bad. Sit.
What's that there, Mel?
Well, if it's who I think it is, and I'm pretty sure I'm not wrong, we just had dinner with him the other night.
And I take it the him wasn't the dinner, was it?
Well, no. No. He was just invited to dinner. Or he might have invited himself. Sometimes it's hard to tell with these things. But yes, family obligations and all that, he was there. And what is his...
One question. I don't expect
No.
a good answer. But is he a heavy hitter for your family?
Not much into politics, but he can certainly make life difficult for my mom and dad and my brother. So,
And for Kai.
Are we
Well,
even
yeah,
allowed to
but-
be in a fight with them?
but you see, my mom and dad and my brother, they're still alive. Kai apparently just has a stake through his heart that can be fixed if we know people that can wake him up.
I don't think we can physically have a war with them, at least not in the open. But obviously, that means that we probably should be on alert. Because while we can't openly war with them, not that we would want to, that means either A, this is their retaliation for the guy who was beating on me, Aloysius, or this is one of many that's about to happen.
So
That's just my opinion.
A couple of ways that this could be. It could be about that. It could be that we allied ourselves with the Pater against them. Or it could just be they're really angry that they don't have the farm anymore.
We might need to know which way the wind is blowing on that answer, huh? That might be helpful.
I mean, all families have their drama. My family just happens to have a lot more drama.
That drags other people into it.
I mean, I guess if we're being fair here, we wouldn't have been dragged into it if not for blackmail.
Yeah, let's be honest, we probably would have been dragged into this no matter what happened.
I mean, it might not have just been through blackmail.
True.
Either way, we still have to get to the Elysium, and I would like to know whether or not Miss Lucy has suffered a loss of one of hers to keep things even, or whether it was just us. Seeing as how we were not alone in taking out their man, and did not solely benefit from it from ourselves. So we should probably get going.
Sounds good to me. How are we getting there?
We can take my truck.
Okay, so how are we getting there? Max says with a vaguely slight glance at Charlie.
Well, I'm taking my truck. What?
So, anybody else have any other possible way to get there?
How many people are we transporting? Because obviously we might be able to fit into one of Millie's cars.
Well, I guess the question is, do we want to take the box and see if there's someone that can wake him up?
No, that's not a good idea.
I mean, I guess we don't have to take the box. We could just, take him out of the box and fold him up like a piece of luggage.
I mean, it's not like he'd hurt. He's tough and he's dead, so,
Like that Weekend at Bernie's movie.
No, he's being kept under guard in my facility, and there are only 2 people with the key, so he will be quite safe where he is being put.
Okay.
Well, the reason why I asked is because I really don't want to take my Lamborghini, but I'm not taking Charlie's truck. That's not happening.
Just knob.
I'm just saying. I mean, I don't want to take my Lamborghini because things seem to get beat up whenever I drive around you people. I don't want to take my Lamborghini, but I'm not taking that truck.
We'll take the Maybach. It seats all of us. And will be aesthetically pleasing for those that need it and practical for those who need that.
I was just asking a question. Beat me up later.
Normally, the person who would be able to do so easily is in a box in one of Millie's closets somewhere around here.
That's problematic.
Needless to say, it is a relatively quiet drive. There's not a lot to say or to unsay, as the case may be. Because once it's out there, it's out there. It is there. Here's my question for you, Max. In the preparing to go and the discussion of which vehicle and what have you, would you be so kind as to go ahead and roll your intelligence plus your intelligence plus occult.
My intelligence plus occult?
Yes.
Ooh, that's gonna be rough. Okay.
Now, who was driving, by the way?
Not that.
Charlie was going to drive herself, since no one likes her truck.
Max likes Charlie's truck. He just doesn't like to be inside it.
It's a classic.
Yeah, so it's a garbage can that Oscar the Grouch lives in, but still don't want to be inside it.
Hey, Grouchland is awesome.
So
They have raspberries.
So who was actually doing the driving? Who drove the Maybach?
Well, it's Millie's car, so she might as well be the one driving it.
As you all come to a stop, finding the perfect parking space for you all, almost as if someone had went through the trouble of cataloging the potential number of vehicles that might be arriving and the need for a private parking space for them at the field. Close enough to be reachable, far enough away that everyone can effectively walk the red carpet on their way into this official Elysium. As you ease a stop and find a nice spot for the Maybach, and you all exit, as Max takes a moment to pose in doing so, as he gently places one leg out, allowing the cameras, if there were such a thing present, to properly photograph him exiting the vehicle. Something occurs to him that causes you all to pause. He's never one for loud much of anything. Most of his words are spoken at just beneath conversational tones, forcing most who are not aware as to what he's doing to lean in closer, to pay a little bit more attention. He's oftentimes asking, well, what was that? What did you say? The fuck that escapes him It's loud enough to be heard across the car, loud enough to be heard outside of the car. Because as you all exit, you realize that in preparing to leave and packing things away, that while the sketchbook made it in, and your new set of pencils made it in, and your notepad made it in, the journal did not. It's sitting at the table.
Millie, everything's gonna be safe over at your brewery, right? Millie?
Yes, my brain is picturing Kai in that box surrounded by straw. What was it you needed?
I left a book on your desk. Please tell me that I don't have to worry about it not being there.
We are the only ones that use that bathroom recently, and Colin knows how to lock the door behind us. It should still be there.
No, huh?
I will call him and let him know that you have left something behind that needs not be touched. Does that make it better?
Let's just go inside. I'll deal with it later. I'll deal with it later. You see, Max starts fumbling with one of his mechanical pencils.
Eight days ago, you were in a condominium on the North Shore, the Magnificent Mile in Chicago. You can look out of the window and watch as the lake did all of its wondrous many acrobatic maneuvers under the cloak of darkness. Yet from this distance and this height, you're able to see as the foam crashed against the shore. You were able to catch how the lights from the ships in the far off distance moving with their evening tours reflected off the water. You were able to smell the jasmine and sandalwood wafting off of the afro-haired woman with skin the color of cafe au lait as she thrummed her left hand against the cover of the book, looking at you. Share. Well, this is no painting. This is, in fact, a work of art. These are the last collected words from a near and dear friend to our friend and pater familiaris. Link would not be very happy if anything untoward were to happen to this book. Now, child, you say that you are up to the task of making sure that you read this book at your pace and make sure that it remains perfectly safe. Is that what I'm hearing? As you walk through the tunnel into the stadium, the way that she stared through you, as she always did, as if she was reading the binary code of your existence, a small, slight chill settles in at the base of your spine. As you all move through the stadium, as you all move through the arena, the clear signs of how quiet and powerful the Kindred of Milwaukee are become visible. You all don't have tickets. You all don't have anything to be scanned, but you're waved on as if someone has radioed ahead or spoken the right whisper to someone's ear. You're guided past all of the other patrons who are coming into the park because of the show that's happening. There's a band from Chicago that the stadium has been rented out for. And all of their fans have paid thousands of dollars to be here on this special, specifically once in every Generation Night. You see people wearing BC t-shirts in black and pink and rainbow tie-dye. You see people with CDs, actual CDs, not digital downloads on their phones. You see people trading wristbands and buttons from back in the 80s where that was an actual thing. You see children barely old enough to be admitted into high school to adults who have more than salt and pepper in their hair. They have full-blown streaks of silver, some of them wearing headbands from the late 70s, early 80s. And it's a melting pot of ages, but all of them are passionate in their fandom, and you all are escorted and guided past them. You're pointing up the stairs and toward the elevator, and mingling amongst all of them. Several tough, rough-looking characters that clearly have only ever made money by the sweat of their brow and the thickness of the calluses of their knuckles and palms of their hands. A few look as if they've probably bitten more than their fair share in this lifetime, but they mingle and are extraordinarily respectful and polite. Oh, pardon me. Excuse me, sorry, let me slide by here. But it is clear that they are the sort that you would not be surprised finding in a biker bar, in the worst B-movie you could ever imagine, or fighting across a battlefield in the Black Forest of Germania. And finally, you arrive at the executive boxes. And normally this is where your story would end. You'd walk into a box, there'd be someone standing behind the door, and that'd be it. Lights out, story's over. But in this case, you guys are guided through the executive box level up to the elite owner's box level. The entire top floor of the stadium with clear views of the stage there in the center of the field, magnified on the various electric screens all around you, and then the kindred of Milwaukee mingling. There are clearly more than 5 kindred present, all of them with some significant level of power if Milwaukee ran like any other city in the world. If Decker had not abolished and destroyed the Primogen, the small privy council, these would be the members there with their sycophants and their retainers and their adjutants. And you all are escorted in. The door silently closed behind you all. There's a few glances, a few looks. Lucina looks directly towards you, Max, and then looks from heel to head, taking in Millie and Charlie and Amalia. She doesn't suck her teeth, she doesn't roll her eyes, but in the moment that her eyes once more reach your shoes and she turns back to her conversation, you're sure that something was tossed off, something was extended towards you, and it was both sticky, smelly, and unavoidable.
Max looks down, kind of pantomiming that he's brushing any lint that's on his pants. He works his way all the way back up very slowly over to his shoulder. He's looking to see whether or not anything that's around or anyone who's paying any attention to him.
It would be impossible to not catch sight of a few furtive glances. These kindred present are in fact the Anubi. These kindred present are world beaters. These are captains of various cliques and social groups among the kindred. They're the Anubi, they're the judges, there are the formerly would have been and still respected as Primogen of Milwaukee, and then there are you 4.
Max turns to look at everyone he's with. You guys ready to go swim with some sharks?
No.
Because it's about to get real thick.
Charlie will look around the room all self-consciously and try to smooth out her little black dress that's old enough to have been in style at least 3 times, but not now.
Millie's mostly unbothered by the weird looks and the undercurrent of attitude that's going on. She knows how to play this game. She's used to dealing with not tougher customers, but usually the company that she is in is very male oriented, so like the cattiness is not something she really bothers her. She knows she's stressed for comfort, but high end, so that's not the problem. Looking around for one specific person, seeing as how she would expect them to be here, and that hoping that them being here would give them some answers.
Mal, for her part, is used to being the little fish, but she was also brought up to know kinda how to blend in. So that's what she's doing, blending.
I'm just gonna leave this to y'all. I'm gonna go stand over there against the wall by the snack table.
It seems like the most logical thing to do, to be the wallflower, to be out of the way, to blend in with all of these sharks masquerading as dolphin. It seems very much the sort of social gathering where being here would automatically open doors in the business world or in the art world. Being amongst this level of power, even being the lowest person on the totem pole in this room, sets you apart and above most others. Yet there seems to be an undercurrent of undue levels of attention being placed upon you all. You passed several groups that may be as rich, may be as polite, may be as powerful as you all are individually. Yet you were escorted here. Pointed, guided, cajoled, and convinced this is where you belong. Walking through your door is a testament and a statement of the fact that in fact you do not. Becoming invisible just confirms the bulk of the expectations of you being defiant, adding to that fire that's being fueled. As if someone has already spread the word, or if someone knew that you'd be invited to this level of Elysium, that you would be invited to the most rarefied air of this huge public official Elysium, hidden behind the concert, which is the opening act. It's finally winding down. And you listen more so than anything else because you're trying to not feel the tremor of feet stamping, hands clapping, voices joining in with songs that haven't been sung yet as the cheer begins to ripple and wave through the crowd below you. But it very much is that, as if you all are the main attraction here in this room. So as you all do what comes natural to you, as you seek solace and safety in whatever realm and area that you can, as always, things conflate, moments blend together. Would you all, each and every one, be so kind as to roll, unless of course you are attempting to utilize the ebb and flow of conversation to your own ends, would you be so kind as to roll your charisma plus status?
Now Max is trying to pick up on bits and pieces of conversation as to what is everyone talking about, because they're all talking about us. But what exactly are they talking about us for?
Where's status? I'm looking for that one.
It's a background.
It's a background. Either you have it or kind of not.
Too many spaces.
I got politics, no status.
Well, fire away.
Well, now I know where to put those points coming up later.
It's alright, the Hecata has status.
Sadly, Charlie doesn't. Probably should, as the child of one of the Anubi, but
Millie?
Okay, so you said if we weren't using the conversation around us, it was the charisma and status. But because I only have charisma, not status, is there anything else I could use, or is there anything else that might be helpful?
Not in this particular moment. It is literally a measure of how you all are attempting to blend in, disappear, or otherwise work your way into the conversations around you. You all have artificially been elevated to the back rooms of power. You have been invited pulled into the lion's den, coated in A1 steak sauce and the leftovers of someone's tuna sandwich. You have been tossed to the wolves. And as much as we modern individuals, we modern free-thinking Americans, to be more specific, don't adhere to the public notion of caste assistance, as much as we fight against othering those around us, as much as we try to be inclusive and polite, if not nice. Such is not the word and such is not the thing for the kindred. Your status, your standing in the world is your social currency. There is the full weight of egos, temperaments, and ideologies that if you are not a power, you should not even breathe the same air as power. Many of the kindred, while just young enough to not have served under full-fledged kings of Europe or elsewise, still give credence to the idea that those in power Your kings, your queens, your dukes and duchesses, your lords and ladies have the right of life or death over all of their subjects and measure with their status from top to bottom. It's a weird feeling knowing that you are on the outside of that. Your presence barely tolerated. Everyone thinks and believes they can outlast it, they can outshine it, they can avoid it, they can escape it. That's a very American ideal. It's a very modern sensibility. But these monsters are older than those sensibilities. They are more ingrained in what they have, who they are, and why it matters. And feeling that overwhelming pressure changes things for some of you. There's swimming with the sharks, and then there's realizing that you are nothing but chum. And for most of you, that feeling is uncomfortable. You're not accustomed to it. It doesn't sit right knowing that these individuals believe and actually do have full power of right of life or death over you. You made your own way in the wild. You made your own way through the boardroom. You made your own way in the art world, and damn them all, they're not going to take that from you. But somehow they managed to all the same. Inviting you into a conversation just to ignore you. Pulling you close enough simply because they have the right to touch you when they choose. Resting a hand on your shoulder as they pass because you're of no more importance than the chair or table next to you. And just as that is settling in, just as that it's crawling over your skin like a million pissed off fire ants, you all glimpse Amalia surfing the waves, bowing in time, giving far more shows and signs of respect than should come natural to anything that has a semblance of self. But she's doing so willingly. She's bowing so low that her forehead is scraping the floor. Not in all actuality, but you can see as she smiles, clearly being the butt of someone's intended barb, and ducks one personal attack as another is ridiculing her dress politely and saying how liberal and understanding they are by welcoming such a poor individual. And it's just ridiculous. Yet in the doing, in the practicing all that she had been taught, the slings and arrows miss. They fall away. There's no pleasure nor coup counted. Because she does the scraping, she does the bowing, she does the giving herself over to that abusive power, deflating its strength, altering its aim. And while the very real, rugged, individualistic spirit of America races through you, each and every one, because of the status that you've claimed in the mortal world and what you've survived, there is still an air of pride to it. I am no one's dog. I am no one's pet. You don't get to touch me. How? And yet, in the doing, Amalia, bowing, scraping, ducking, dodging, is relatively unscathed. What you all hear tossed off as if you all don't matter is how there's been links to anarchs amongst the actual tower. What you all hear is how those others are comporting themselves, how things are growing out of hand. and how Decker may be potentially, and then the conversation stops and they change subject because they realize that just because you're beneath their notice doesn't mean you don't have ears or eyes or other appendages which you should be thankful that you've been allowed to keep. And you hear whispered from a distance, but far more often than you like, but don't they belong downstairs with the others of their sort? Yes, childer at best. And then the main stage lights up. Fireworks are set off. The stadium. The bass carried through the stone floors beneath your feet and through the pillars all around you doubles and triples upon itself. And Decker is suddenly there in the window. He's suddenly there facing the main stage. He's not watching them on the many electronic screens around you all and around the room. He's looking out the window towards the stage because the band that takes place is the one, the only, the undisputed kings and queens of the local music scene. It is Baby Chorus. And the crowd loses its ever-loving mind. Hundreds of voices from 8 to 80 clapping and cheering them on, and the feeling of electricity that was in the air as you all made your way here, and you could feel in the floor and ceiling above you doubles and redoubles upon itself until the windows all but vibrate even from this distance. And while with his back to the room, ignoring the conversations around him, having not made an entrance at all, Decker stands clearly pleased with this moment. The band down there putting on a hell of a show. The crowd bought in. The question remains, what is it that you do?
Charlie will try to shrink into the wall, pretend that she's invisible.
In the time since we've come in and all the little side conversations and snark that was going on, did they see Peter Rossi at all?
No.
Max starts to look for any of the other artists, obviously not the ones that he would know, but more the luminaries, and wanders past a few of them, not actually intending to converse with them, but kind of look, and then just kind of walk away. Look to not even acknowledge them, more or less just to take note of them, where they are in the crowd, i.e. are they centered or are they more or less against the walls? And then once he takes notes of that, he tries to break the room down as to who's around who, because they should be all clicked up by now.
Malia is going to try to find a group of individuals that are dancing, and she is going to join them.
All right. So that being the case, Max, would you be so kind as to roll your wits plus either etiquette or politics? Amalia, would you be so kind as to roll either your charisma plus performance or charisma plus persuasion? And Charlie, would you be so kind as to roll your resolve plus stealth or your dexterity plus subterfuge?
Ignore that roll. That roll was wrong. I hit the wrong key.
Well, you've all decided to divide and conquer. And Millie does not see the pater paying her respects to the prince. Is there anything else she is attempting?
She seems to look at, look towards some of the other of her clan members and kind of work her way towards them. Just to kind of, I guess, get the lowdown and the gossip that's going around that's about anybody but her. She knows they're not related to Toreador, but I know Vinshu still talk.
They do. They speak in clipped, quick tones, driving to the point of it all, minimizing and reducing those around them to positives and negatives. Save for Grassus, his corpulent form dressed just well enough to be ostentatious. But due to his height, everything seems surprisingly large on such a round, huge body, such a soft, pink thing. And around him his court of other Venture, who vary in age from freshly cut to freshly released to existed for the last more than a handful of decades. And the moment that you draw close to Grassus's little corner of the gathering, he is, in fact, smiling like the cat that ate the canary. And as no one draws close enough to Decker to see what it is that he's looking at and what he's enjoying, the music echoing off the walls, Charlie can feel Damien's voice as if he is her light in the dark. Disappearing so firmly to hide amongst the staff and rest against the wall, she's able to feel his voice rocketing and racing through her. She's able to feel how many octaves he's able to work into his singing. And while Kathy is in fact the leader and founder of the band, it has been his group forever. And you feel why. It should be impossible for a kindred to be that in touch with their emotions, to be that passionate. Yet, as you stand, making yourself small as possible to escape notice and view, you realize that it is, in fact, a passion that he expresses every time he sings. You can see why the fans love them as much as they do. Because even though you're not in the mood for a raucous, rebellious, anti-system but it possesses you. It moves through you. It's all that you can do to not tamp your feet to the beat of the music. It's all you can do to not close your eyes and allow that voice to take you anywhere and everywhere save here in this pit of vipers. And there's a saying that Max will never give credit to, that he does his best to live past, because he was never born into this life of finery. He fought and clawed his way into being in the elite realms of finery. He has stolen every inch and fought for every mile to be as respected as he is in the art community. He was not born in the lap of luxury, in fact, far from it. But the quote that rises about the dark, long forgotten past of his human days is, "Closed mouths don't get fed." And he hates that, because that simplistic, straightforward, grubby little understanding of the world should not have a place for him ever. He left it behind. He even died to escape it. Yet that quote welling up very much underscores Lucina and those gathering around her. The purveyors of art, the purchasers, the Patreons, the patrons who bleed the artists one level lower than where you are, where you were escorted from to be here. These harridans and vultures, these shrews who control the ebb and flow of the value of the art in the city and potentially in the region. They have their fingers in and tied to their contemporaries across the state line. They have their fingers in and tied to their compatriots across national lines, across several hundred thousands of miles. So a little twist of a butterfly's head here can cause a painting or a print of a painting to change in value. They can make or break fortunes. And this is the realm that you are in. The doers and those who wish to do, the posers, are a level below you. They are in with the every man kindred. These are the captains of the art. They determine what will be of value. And even in the midst of the halls of power, there are those who purposely show that they are just like everybody else. And you don't have to worry about me just because I have more money than you have lives. You don't have to worry about me. I'm just like everybody else. I wear a t-shirt and jeans just like you all do. They may cost several $100,000 more, but I wear the same t-shirt and jeans. I don't have hundreds of different pairs of shoes. I don't have huge expensive cars. No, I'm just like you. And to prove it, they reach new heights of self-deprecating humor. You see someone actually doing the pogo, and he's joined by another kindred who's doing the actual Watusi. And there's the twist. And other dances that have long gone out of actual style and have been reinvented and reinvigorated.
Max takes a deep breath and looks over towards Lucinda. Beautiful evening.
It was.
It was, and it will be again. How does this night find you?
Bored. Prince Decker called us here for an announcement, and he waits. And he waits. He watches. Of course, a member of our clan performed for all of those guests out there without enlightening anyone, while we are wasting our time here in these dull surroundings with those who don't deserve our presence nor our light.
Of course. But I'm sure, as the prince, he has his reasoning.
Yeah,
we can just
like some poor child who would dare cross state boundaries to dally in Chicago without so much as even an invite.
We're all invited if we're welcomed in. And if I remember correctly, the prince did welcome me in. So I do understand.
Do you? That is quite a hard sold deal. We have a certain, I believe that we each and every last one of our members of our clan, the most prestigious of all, would understand the basic responsibilities inherent. Noble is as noble does. Crossing city boundaries, let alone state boundaries, without announcing yourself to the local authorities without notifying those of whom you've left behind, without inviting them perhaps to speak on your regards, so that phone calls aren't had, that, well, noble is as noble does. Some of us are not, as we speak.
So the letter, the missive sent by Moshe and Link did not reach you? That's interesting. Maybe, perhaps I'll ask him about it next time I speak with him.
She leans in very, very closely, her lips looking as if, for all intents and purposes, as if she's attempting to kiss you on the corner of your mouth. And she whispers, or her voice rolls across your skin. Please do slap yourself. Impertinence holds no place here. You were a naughty boy. You took to the road, and when the calls came in, and people state that they've seen you making a fool of me amongst our blood, to attempt to defend that, and she smiles. It's only natural, after all. Children will do what children do. And she turns away from you at that point. From the outside, from more than a foot away, it looked as if you were just kissed by the would-be primogen of the Toreador clan. From outside, from more than a foot away, it looks as if you told the most impressive of jokes, which had her laughing and clapping in response to it. From outside, as she turns away, it seems as if it's just a small dip in the conversation. Someone else caught her attention or drew it away from you. From inside, from less than a foot away, it very much feels as if the lights were turned out. The sun refused to shine on your skin. The moon refused to provide you light through the night. The world has suddenly grown several degrees colder. And you can't be sure. Perhaps it's a leak from the floor above. But it definitely feels as if it's raining inside. Specifically, solely inside where you are now standing.
Outwardly, Max looks like he's smiling. Inwardly, he's grinding his teeth. Not loud enough so that anyone can hear it, but inwardly, he's grinding his teeth. And he continues walking to see, not say anything to the prince, but just to see what is he looking at, baby cores, or is he just looking at into the night sky?
Millie, there are rumors abounding that Hrothgar and Grasses once had a feud that has lasted nearly 1,000 years and plus some. That Hrothgar really is an ancient Viking and that Grasses really was a former Roman senator. But rumors being rumors, nothing lasts that long remains sane. So the insanity that she sees there dancing just beneath his gaze as she draws close is very apropos. The rumors may not have been completely accurate or factual, but they're close enough because the boy, the man that he is, the small corpulent thing, soft and pink, and clearly have never experienced any semblance of anything close to hard work, looks at you as if you are his favorite meal. Oh my goodness, I knew you'd be returning to me. After all, how is our lovely friend Aaron?
Aaron is off doing Aaron things. It seems he found himself too busy to be here this evening.
Oh yes, if this was the first inaugural, I just could wonder how annoyed would the prince be if someone didn't vouch for him, someone didn't cover for him, someone didn't extend their necks for him. It is such a shame that we no longer have tournaments of strength where lions and tigers and Jewish people are involved. The only thing more vicious and more virile are those bloody northern Africans. All of those sweaty, muscled backs bending against the might of the Roman Empire. I do miss my youth. I miss it very much.
His speech kind of catches her a bit off guard when he mentions Jewish and lions, and it's just kind of, but it's recovering as best she can. She kind of looks at him. Yes, a pity, indeed.
Things were so much more simple when those sorted and suited such poor displays of intelligence, but such great displays of strength and speed and violence could settle all manner of things. Not like today, where everything is all electronic. Did you know that the mortals engage in sexual relations without ever touching each other, miles and blocks and cities apart even? They look at the little TV screens and they touch and they touch and they touch, and nothing touches them except for themselves, and they find some way to make a mess of themselves.
Millie is not typically a prude, but the way he described that, she couldn't help but to pull a face. Like, cringes. Thank God for not being mortal anymore, I guess, then.
It is not like the golden eras. I remember in the 80s, or 70s, no, it was the 60s, you could really just pick up the receiver on the phone and dial a number at random, and your breathing would cause them to breathe, and then, well, things would happen. It was such a more divine time. Crass, as today is, of course, but just more elegant.
She is starting to regret her choice. Going over there. You made a good point earlier. Somebody should go speak with Decca about Aaron not being here, so I should probably do that.
I don't believe you should stick your neck out for him. Perhaps one of your compatriots, one of your little twos, your retainers. That is what they are to you, aren't they? The group that you were saddled with, touching and only touching yourselves. Dialing strange numbers at random, jumping into bed with all manner of, well, unknown entities.
They definitely have their uses.
I'm sure they do. I'm sure they do. But if you would like to go speak with Deck, I believe your coterie mate might have beat you to it. I didn't believe Deck was the sort to engage in such activities. If I had only known that maybe all it required was a bit of dark skin, I might have made the attempt. Perhaps. In glancing to Decker, you see that Max is easing alongside him, far enough away to leave him in his own space, but there's from the outside, a certain camaraderie and acceptance because Decker hasn't driven him off, hasn't chosen to move away himself.
Wait till it for a minute. Yes, Yes, I see that he is talking to the prince, but I should definitely go step in because that one doesn't know when to stop running his mouth.
I see. This is a shame. You can speak all night long, and if no one quite understands what you are relaying, you might as well be speaking to yourself. Such is the burden of wisdom and knowledge and undeniable charm.
Indeed. Well, wishing you a glorious eve. And carefully, not turning her back to him because she don't know what he up to. She's back up. When she's out of reach, then she'll turn and head towards the prince.
Just as he turns, Toodles. Governing the distance where Grasses is set up on a modern approximation of a golden days. Not far enough away to be across the room, but close enough to be easily beheld. Amalia mixes and mingles with those not of her blood, not of her status, but somehow not shooing her away, somehow enjoying her presence just enough as they make sure that everyone knows they're just like everyone else. They're not the strange, weird, powerful individuals that they are, and they're dancing and bopping. And a few pecks are exchanged between one or the next of them, a hand reaching out for a hand, and it is clear that the intention of their seeming, it's not catching the right attention. They haven't gotten the people they were trying to attract to come close enough. They haven't caused enough of a stir to change the tone of the conversations around the room and around the space. It's easily picked up on from this distance, and yet where does that place Amalia?
I don't know if really at this point she's just trying to enjoy herself.
Being tolerated is as close as many ever come to being accepted. There is a certain psycho-sociopathic bent to modern times that, while still present in all the many elder generations, is less so. There were fewer individuals so bent. So in this moment of simple dancing, even though the others seem to be dancing for a purpose or for a reason to attract the right gaze, Mal is able to disappear for a second. She's able to not think on Lawrence and the conversations and the questions that he asked her. He was working an angle. He was lightly touching and interrogating her this entire time. He was using her, using the family at the behest of the family. And it's difficult, though not impossible, to absolve herself of any wrongdoing in connection with the staking and potential ending of Kai. But it's close enough to an impossibility. The information about nothing that she shared, the information without any detail that she shared, he somehow managed to use to complete part of his task in being here. And it's impossible for her to not think on that last conversation. And she asked him, "So, we are always appreciative of your time and you coming in, spending time with the family, but when are you leaving?" And his response, "But of course you'll know when I'm leaving." and a segue into a conversation about the cousins in southern Indiana who have taken up arms against the local church members. Not the magisters, but in fact, the ministry has managed to, and it was so intriguing the way that they were able to co-opt the city and build into the infrastructure already in place, that she realizes the question was never actually answered. There was no date given. There was no hour of departure given. No quarter given, no quarter asked is usually how combat went in the olden days. And it doesn't really mean all that much. It just means that if you were on the opposing side and you didn't have any value for kidnap, you could expect a painfully slow death because no one died quickly. The shock of being stabbed typically passed before the body expired. You'd eventually die, but it was a slow, painful thing back in the olden days. It's how the kindred learned to end kindred. Those swift coup de grace given was designed to make sure that the person or enemy that you fought at night remained dead come the next night. And here, hidden amongst these power mongers, these power brokers, these powerful of Milwaukee, she understands that socially no quarter is given nor asked. They play for blood. And they have every intention of eating what they kill. It's hard to not see it. And Charlie waits as much out of you as possible. The scent of a freshly rained in forest begins drifting towards her nostril. The moss damp with everything that spilled out of the sky. The trees fresh and bright and green. The chlorophyll filling the air. And not because they were crying for help, not because they were dying, but in celebration and rejoice of the rain. The world gives and takes in equal measure. So as her sire asks, what are you doing here? Someone might as well punch them.
She will jump slightly and look at him. Then compose herself a little bit. I don't know, we're supposed to come here, right? And then they escorted us up here. I don't know why I'm in this room.
Who escorted you up here? Because there's no reason for you, or he motions offhandedly with his chin towards Millie, making her way towards the window where Max and the prince are standing, close enough to be considered part of the same moment, where across the room Amalia is dancing with a few other kindred of note. And you hiding here in the shadows with your sire on your left arm. It is clear that you all don't belong at this strata nor level of power, but someone decided to bring you here. Someone decided to have you in this portion, and the prince doesn't seem as if he's kicking anyone out.
I don't know the guy who let us up here. I don't know who he was.
Come on, little wolf. There's no reason to be afraid. Yes, they can kill you. Yes, they can eat you. And you can take their tongue with you when they do. You can take a few fingers and make it harder for them to hunt someone else. This ain't your environment, neither is it mine, but I've learned to shrug off most of the slings and arrows of their sharp tongues, because they need us.
I kind of thought I'd just play it like high school, just lean against the wall here, and nobody would want to ask me to dance. They got the pretty girls, they got the popular girls, they got the athletic girls, and then I'd just stand over here and be ignored.
If only you were ignored. You're standing out more than you could ever think of. You who refuse to be whipped by the social pressures around. You who refuse to knuckle under the social pressures abounding. You who refuse to play the game. You might as well be paying the target on yourself. The best defense is a good offense. And right now, all you're doing is turtling up.
All right. I mean, none of these people want to talk to me.
Something to make them do what they don't want to do. Exercise your power. Take from them everything that they're seeking to take from you in those little quiet asides. Look. He points with his chin again. The little pink, soft, Roman, chubby boy is dismissing someone with a wave of his hand, his arm fat jiggling as he does so. You have never before beheld a kindred who had actual flabby skin, who was that weird, awkward, chubby, fat, chubby, skinny. He's large enough to be considered large, skinny enough that his large isn't oppressive, yet when he moves, it's clear that he's never done a hard day's labor ever, dead or alive. And the person that he's shooing away is making the most ridiculously unhidden grimace towards your area where you're standing here with your sire, as if he was clearly speaking about you, your sire, or both. And it very much is for you in the moment like high school. It is someone who's seeking to better their own position by standing on the back of another. It is the sort of idiot that makes sure his shoes are tied tight when you're running from the bear because he plans on tripping you and behind him. This is sort of malice that only children can throw off in a scatter shot to hurt themselves, the world around them. But as long as they're better than someone, it makes it okay.
Charlie's kind of a glutton for punishment, so that'll be the person that she chooses to go talk to.
There we go, little wolf. And as Charlie makes her way off the wall, starts crossing the distance, the band below ends their first set. And the prince turns, his gaze raking over Max and Millie closing, and the gathered kindred and Decker. Kindred of Milwaukee. Or more specifically, the gathered might of the Primogen of Milwaukee. I thank you for coming to this Elysium. And with that hanging in the air, the full declaration that not only has the Primogen of Milwaukee been reconstituted, but everyone in this room is considered part of that internal privy council. And it's as if someone lit an M80 behind your eyes and ears, the top portion of your skull flying 60 feet above your body. You're able to see this room as from the third person, several inches and feet from where you're currently standing. And with that playing on everyone's mind, I'd like to thank you all for a lovely episode. Good night, everybody.
Night all.
Good night.
Good night.